Today we're going to be learning how to divide decimals, so we're going to do 3 examples. But first, here are the steps for dividing decimals. Number 1, you need to move your decimal, and we'll talk about that in a second. Number 2, you need to bring your decimal up for your answer. And number 3 is just do regular long division. So let's do an example. So in our first example, we have 3.74, or 3 74/100ths, divided by 0.2, or 2/10. So first we rewrite it with our division house, and the first number goes inside, the second number goes outside. And then the first step that we saw before was that we had to move our decimal. And here's what that means. Our number on the outside cannot be a decimal. It has to be a whole number. So in order to make it a whole number, we have to move the decimal 1 time. So now, instead of 0.2, it's 2. And then however many times we move the decimal on the outside, we have to move the decimal on the inside. So we moved our decimal once on the outside and once on the inside. Our next step is we bring our decimal straight up so that we know where it'll be in our answer. And then our third step is to just do regular long division. So to do that, we start by doing 3 divided by 2. And I know that 2 fits into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. We subtract and we get 1. Next step is to bring down this 7. And then we do 17 divided by 2. Well, I know 2 times 8 is 16, and that's as close as I can get. So it goes in 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract, and I get 1. Last step, bring down this 4. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Subtract, and we get 0. So our final answer is 18.7. Oops, that was a messy 7. Let's write that again. All right, so what we did was we moved the decimal, we brought our decimal up, and then we did regular long division. Let's do another example. Our second example is 1.96 divided by 0.7. So again, we wrote it with our division house. And see, on the outside it says 0.7. That's a decimal, and we can't have a decimal on the outside as our divisor. So we have to move our decimal 1 place to the right. And since we moved it 1 place on the outside, we have to move it 1 place on the inside. Next, we bring our decimal straight up. And then we do regular long division. So we would start by saying, can I do 1 divided by 7? I can't do that because 1 is smaller than 7, so I put a 0. Sometimes we can put a sad face too. Next, we have 19 divided by 7. Well, 19 is bigger than 7, so I know it works. Now I have to figure out how many times. 7 plus 7 is 14. If I did that again, it'd be 21, and that's too big, so it's just 2 times. 2 times 7 is 14. Subtract, and we get 5. Bring down the 6. And then next we do 56 divided by 7. And a lot of people forget about this, but 7 goes into 56 exactly 8 times. So we put our 8 here. 8 times 7 is 56. We subtract and we get 0. So our final answer is 2.8. You don't need to write this 0 at the beginning. All right. One thing we want to always keep in mind is that we keep our numbers lined up. Okay, we don't want to squish them in because then we might make a mistake, and I might squish this 8 in front of the decimal, which would be a very different answer. So we want to make sure all of our numbers are lined up. Let's do one more example. Our next example, or our final example, is 0.438 divided by 0.03. So I have my division house set up. This time though, if I move the decimal once like we did in the other answers, now it will be 0.3, and that's still a decimal, that's not a whole number. So I have to move it over 1 more time. So this time I had to move my decimal twice. So on my inside number, I'm also going to have to move my decimal twice. 1, 2. Then I bring it straight up. And then I do regular long division. So this number on the outside was 0.03. But now that I moved my decimal twice, it's 0.3, which is just 3. So we're going to do 4 divided by 3. That's 1. 3 fits in one time. 1 times 3 is 3. We subtract and we get 1. Bring down this 3. Then we do 13 divided by 3. Well, I know 3 times 4 is 12, so it's going to be a 4 up here. 4 times 3 is 12. We'll get 1. And then we bring down the 8. Last step, 18 divided by 3. I know that's 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract and we get 0. So our final answer is 14.6. Okay, and it's as easy as that. So when you divide decimals, one last time, let's go through the steps. You move the decimal on the outside however many times to make it a whole number. You move the decimal on the inside the same amount of times, and then you bring your decimal straight up and do regular long division. And that is how you divide decimals.